Okay, we're looking at the review for the test over 7, 8, and 11. And so we'll start with chapter 7 real quickly. We're going to go through all this. A media event is something that is staged so to bring coverage, and most politicians use that. Okay, Franklin Roosevelt kind of set the stage for the modern president. He gave weekly press releases and press conferences. He did not make them turn in questions. And of course he had some of the fireside chats. Now the press was always friendly with the government until the Vietnam War and Watergate came along, and that got them suspicious that maybe the government has not always been telling the truth. And this brought up what is called investigating journalism, which means that we're no longer going to just print what the government tells us to. We're going to investigate on our own and see if there's anything to it. Another large mass media event was the election in 1960, presidential election. And there was the first TV televised debate between Kennedy and Nixon. And in that, after it was over with, 80% who listened to it said Nixon won. 80% who watched on TV said Kennedy won, and that showed that on TV, it's not necessarily what you say, it's how you present yourself. And even today, the coverage is more on the day-to-day campaigning than issues. They want to know who's ahead and what they're doing day in, day out, rather than just let them talk about the issues. Okay, we go on down. We talked about trial balloons, when a politician will release a story to the press, and then he'll see how the people react to it. And if it's okay, then he'll go ahead and release it. If it's not, then he can always deny it. And the Republicans have always thought that there was a liberal bias on the major networks. And there was a survey of all the liberal anchors, and 7% of them said they were liberals. Now, because you're liberal does not necessarily mean that you're biased, but it does tend to show that there is a lot of the media who would favor the liberals over the conservative. Also, we talked about the talking heads. President makes a decision and only involving a couple of cabinet members, but all the cabinet members scatter out and try to get on TV and the mass media to support the decision made by the president. And we're going through this pretty quick because I know that a long video you may not listen to. All right, here's another ID that you may need to know, and it just talks about political capital, and that is the idea that people invest their time and their money on an issue and rely heavily on the media to get their idea across. Linkage is something that comes up a lot. Last section we talked about linkage being you belong to a political organization or you belong to a interest group. But now it's more about what does the interest group, the linkage means. You know, it kind of links the public to the party and to the government, and they're trying to change the policy. And we go to chapter 8 over the political parties. Again, there is linkage, and there's the definition right there. Hopefully you copy your notes so you can kind of underline as we go. Now, the task of a political party, number one, is to find candidates and win elections. That's the number one goal. There are three divisions of a political party: the party in the electorate, that those are the people, the actual people who are party members. There is a party organization that we talk about in a second, and then most parties want to control the government, so when they do control the government, it's a party in the government. Now, rational choice means that most parties are interested in winning more than what they believe in. So they may sacrifice their beliefs so they could win an election. Republicans may support a right of the women to have an abortion, even though they don't agree with that, because they think he can get elected, he or she. Party identification is still the best way to determine how people are going to vote. And more today, we have some ticket splitting, meaning that you will vote for some Republicans and some Democrats on the ticket. Used to be what was called straight ticket, where you only vote for one party. And then long ago, we had the party machine. This was where one or a couple of people would control a whole city and how they would get people to vote for who they wanted to. They would do this by promising them jobs and rewards if they vote the way they want them to. There's three basic primaries. Open primary, closed primary, where you had to register ahead of time to vote in the primary, and you can only vote for one party. An open primary, you can only vote for one party also, but you do not have to register ahead of time. Now, blanket primary is the one that most of us would support. That is when both parties are on the same ballot, and you can actually split your ticket. But this is very unpopular to the parties because they don't want to give you an opportunity to vote for the other party. Now, we said the political parties are controlled. If there is a presidential election that year, the National Convention will control the party. The 3 years in between, then a national committee will control the party, and there is a national chairperson who will sign the checks and do the day-to-day type things. Coalition. This is when the groups get together. You could have several different types of groups. The NRA could get together with a PAC or whatever and try to get something done. So it's just a group of different groups getting together for a common cause. Okay, a very little history here, but we have a situation where one party controls the government for long periods of time. And usually this starts at a crucial election like the Civil War election, and then the election right before the Great Depression, and so on. And we usually have a party realignment when we have a divided, and which may cause us to have a divided government. That's where the big arrow is. Okay, we talked about Roosevelt earlier, and he got a coalition. It's called the New Deal, where he got the Democrats and the liberals and the poor African Americans together, and they stayed in control from the Great Depression until the late 1960s. Okay, more people identify themselves as independents, and that they do not identify themselves as Republicans or Democrats. And from 1972, elections have a focus on individual candidates more than the parties. The green means I have added that to your notes, so you can also add that to your notes if you want to. Now, the third parties in the United States, they do a lot of good. They bring up ideas. They get the major parties to adopt a popular platform. They can take a strong stance on something. But they don't usually win, especially in presidential elections, because there is the winner-take-all, the laws, the election laws, like the winner-take-all and the single-member district. Those are laws that makes it difficult for a third party to win. And let's scroll on down here. Okay, the two-party system in the United States. We just got through talking about that, the election laws, the single-member districts, and tradition are the main ways. We talked about divided government. That's when one party is the president and the other party controls one house of the Congress, like it is today. All right, last thing, we're into interest groups. Interest groups are organization of people who have a common goal, one small, narrow common goal. And they are not interested in running people for offices, and they do not appeal to everyone like the political party will try to appeal to everyone. And they're not particularly protected in the Constitution. It does not mean they don't have protection, but it's not necessarily a protection in the Constitution or laws. You know, Madison was the first one who warned us about interest groups. He called them factions. And what he said was true, came to be. And interest groups, liberalism, refers to the belief that interest groups are going to pull the government so many different ways that they will not have the ability to make a decision like we're having today over the budget. Now, Iron Triangle means that there is also called a sub-government. That's when a private interest group gets together with a committee in Congress and one of the branches, like the military, and all three of those get together and form a triangle, and they usually get what they want after that triangle is formed. A bunch of economic stuff that you should already know. Free rider is the people who are not union members, but they get the same benefits as the union members do. The Oster's law, the larger the group, the less it has, the less it can protect the individual, and the less effect it has on the free rider problem. Okay, we're getting to the end. Lobbyists. Lobbyists are representatives of the interest groups, and they go to Washington. One of the big things they do is they give information and money to congressmen and try to get their vote one way or the other. We talked a lot about the political action groups, political action committees. Remember, they cannot give money directly to a campaign, but they can help a campaign by running commercials, having get out the vote drives, and so on. And if you don't get your way in Congress, you can always go to court and try to get your job done. A lot of people have followed that. And okay, we're going to the end. Okay, what is this? Okay, it's just saying that for democracy to work, that interest groups cannot have a controlling effect on issues. Okay. We always have the most missed from the last test, and this test you'll need to know the definition of federalism, an example of checks and balances, what was the Federalist Paper number 10 all about, and give an example of reserved powers that the state has. All right. Hope you do well. That's 14 minutes and 39 seconds, so that's pretty good. Study this and other things, and may the force be with you on your test.